War Eagle Auburn family, and welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we get together and we talk about what's going on in the world of Auburn family news, discuss it, take your comments and questions. This is a place where we just hang out together and be one big happy Auburn family. Even though sometimes we don't see eye to eye on things, but we're here. We're gonna hang out. We're gonna talk about some things, and I hope that you'll join us today, whether you're watching live or on the replay. We're broadcasting live on two different formats right now, right in front of me on YouTube, but also on Facebook and on Instagram if they're both connected at the same time. I'm not exactly sure. We're trying that out for the first time today. So if you are watching live, please do not be shy. Post comments, questions. Tell me that you're here with a War Eagle, a hello, whatever you'd like to. And if you're watching on the replay, don't be shy to post any comments and questions as well, and we can get back to you as soon as we can on that. So today's topic is, and it's not such a big topic, so we can hit a lot of other things. It's happy birthday to Auburn University, 165 years, the loveliest village on the plains. And we can talk about anything in that realm you want, or we can just all wish them a happy birthday. So that's how we should start today. Everybody should just wish Auburn University a happy birthday because it's our home and we love it. D Ford's over there on Facebook. Nice to see you, D Ford. Thanks for being here, and War Eagle to you. So just like D did, don't be shy. Post War Eagle, hello, whatever you'd like to as you pop in here today. And as you're getting in here, if you will do us a favor and make sure you smash that like button on whichever format that you're watching at to help push the stream out to other people. Share it out in other ways, retweeting or not retweeting, but sharing and into groups and things like that you want to do to have people be a part of this. So we'll hit on any Auburn topic that you want today. I'm sure a lot of you are interested in recruiting and things of that nature, so we can hit on that. But let me cover a couple of things at the start that we always do, that most of you that are regulars will know this and how we do things here. These are ways that you can help support the content that you're watching here now. For YouTube, for Facebook folks and Instagram folks, I'm sorry, you'll have to bear with us. You can't see the graphics, but the people on YouTube can. We are primarily a podcast network. If you haven't, please do make sure you go and subscribe and check out all the different podcasts that we have. Today, we have a brand new episode of No Huddle, breaking down the latest Auburn football news, obviously the full coaching staff, the full schedule that we had released, and everything in between there. And we will they'll break all that down today. So you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts. The link is in YouTube chat for those of you that want to check it out there. But also you can do things like help support this content by joining the E2C Network Booster Club, which is our Patreon campaign. Go to E2C Network or patreon.com/E2C Network, and I'll put the link in for the YouTube folks. And you can sign up for as little as $1 a month and get yourself some perks and help support the content that we do here. And then there's some other ways listed below that you can help support the content too. So there we go. A lot of people saying hello. Jeff Wilson. Saw a couple other names pop up there I might have missed as well. So YouTube, Facebook people, y'all's comments go away a little bit quicker, so I'll do my best to stay up as you guys post those there. The YouTube folks are the ones that stay in front of me, so I always can keep track of everything they got going on. So I'll do my best over there, and I always recommend people come over to YouTube because it's the better experience. But we're doing this over here for y'all in case you want to. All right, so I said hello to a lot of the Facebook people that are here. Jack is here. Darius, good to see you. He says, I'm early. Good to see you here. I'm glad you're here early. Thomas Manville's in the house. Good to see you, man. And then let's see. Jack said, heard from a few sources we are going to get some surprise flip commits transfers announced later today, even more tomorrow. I think that's probably possible. It kind of has to happen. So here's the way I would say to think about that, Jack. Anything at this point is a surprise. Because I even did a little looking around this morning, as I've told you that, obviously I enjoy talking about recruiting and things like that, but I don't get so excited about it anymore because I found it kind of ran my life and I got so obsessive about it. But I kind of tried to get up to date on things, and based off what I'm taking, there's like only one or two expected commits right now. So basically anything's a surprise. So I wouldn't get so hyped up, Jack, to say that there's going to be some big wave coming for Auburn. I don't think that necessarily is going to happen. I do think we're going to get some commits we weren't expecting, but I don't think that we're talking 5 and a lot of 4 stars. Just my feelings on the situation. I could be 100% wrong, and I'm not trying to sit here and say that 2 days from now, National Signing Day won't be a great day, but I am saying that you might want to temper that expectation just a little bit. But I also heard those rumblings and those rumors as well. Those always start this time of year. I hate to be the one that bursts the bubble because I've been there too, where I'm hearing all these rumors and stuff, and things just never pan out. So I always subscribe to the theory: where there's smoke, there's fire, but to what degree? That little caveat at the end is key. To what degree? So anyway, Joe Rudolph, what's going on, man? Thanks for being here today. Appreciate you being here. So we can bounce around to many topics. So 165 years, as I knock the microphone here, 165 years of Auburn University. How long have you been an Auburn fan? Why don't you share that in the comments section right now, everybody? How long have you personally been an Auburn fan? I have been on this earth. I know it doesn't look like it with my losing hair right here for 33 years. Is that right? 33 years. So I have been an Auburn fan since day one. Well, I didn't really have a choice. My dad was the one who indoctrinated me. Now, my mother, sadly, is an Alabama fan, and she tried to get a hold of me early on. And apparently in my baby book, the words RT are written in there before even War Eagle or some other words that she tried to get me to say or made me say before anything else. But I'm thankful that my father stepped in and corrected that mistake long ago. It's one of the few mistakes, if only mistakes, my mother made with me. Any other mistakes that I made up there are solely of my own accord. 32 years, Thomas says, as an Auburn fan since 1989, since birth. Nice. Yeah, I love being an Auburn fan, and it's one of the greatest things on earth, being part of the Auburn family. And, I think we all knew that the Auburn family was this real thing. Like, but we never really started verbalizing that on a wide basis until really, in my mind, Gene Chizik got here. And Gene kind of started really kind of pushing that and driving that. I think we all knew it, we all felt it, but he kind of put those words into action. And I think that's what's kind of made that very special about this. And it's always been something that's defined the Auburn culture, that's defined the Auburn family. And it's made the university great for 165 years. Now, we didn't start as Auburn University, if you'll remember. We started as the Alabama Males College, some version of that. Then we were a Agricultural Mechanical Institute, and then we were API, Alabama Polytechnical Institute, and then in 1960, I think is when we officially renamed to Auburn University. But the school that began as that little bitty male college has become Auburn University, a major university in many aspects, in athletics and academics and community service, and just being the best place to live. And I'm not even there. I hope someday that we will be there. That's the goal, is to take this show on the road to Auburn, but we will hopefully make that happen someday. So yeah, all 18 years, all 12 years, I swear I cried when Derrick Henry demolished us. Let's see. Let me back up here and get some other comments and questions kind of off that subject. I don't expect much, in all honesty, but many people I'm connected with say to look out for Dylan Brooks and many others who are currently projected to commit to other teams. Yeah, I think Auburn's going to swing a few that aren't expected to sign with others. I don't know why. I'm just having trouble getting on the Dylan Brooks bandwagon. A lot of people are on that one. I'm just not there, to be honest with you. I'm just kind of like, I'm good. If it happens, great. And I think that's just kind of me and where I've kind of come in terms of my liking of recruiting. I just don't get really excited about it all that anymore until it actually happens. When they sign on that dotted line, sign me up every day and twice on Sunday. Let's see. Auburn fitting hit the transfer, and for those of you on Facebook, I'm reading comments off of this in case you wonder why I'm kind of reading things a little or saying things a little weirdly. Darius says Auburn is going to hit the transfer portal harder than that time it was on that wipeout thing on Sky Zone. I hope not, sir. I as I've said on many other streams, I really, really honestly hope not. I hope that we only get exactly what we need, and we've already picked up one. That I think is going to be a big one there. But in the defensive end, and we talked a little about him on last stream. I think we could use a offensive tackle transfer in terms of that. Let's talk about this. So the big commit that happened was Colby Wilson, I think is his name, offensive tackle, 6'7", I think 290 something pounds, something like that. So pretty decent size, offensive lineman, offensive tackle. So there on the recruiting services on Twitter, there was this story being pushed that, and it's correct if you let me back up here. There's a story being pushed that if you think about it on just the surface level is not true. But if you really pay attention and your wording's correct on it, it is true. And I always like to get, and you guys know me here, I'm a devil's advocate type of person. Like I'll try to kind of play both sides of this equation here and not just take it at face value. The notion out there is that Auburn had not gone after or, a offensive tackle in 3 years. And dating back to 2017, Calvin Ashley and Austin Troxell. Typically, you don't go after more than 2 offensive tackles in a year. And I think the notion that they didn't go after them is false. They did. They just weren't able to get them. And then Austin Troxell had his issues with his injuries and stuff. And then Calvin Ashley left. And Calvin Ashley was supposed to be the cornerstone. He was supposed to be the next Greg Robinson. So the notion out there that, Coach Malzahn and the previous staff just would not recruit or go after or take seriously the need to get offensive tackles is just false. The fact that they didn't sign anybody is true. Now, in this current class, before all of the craziness, they had 2 offensive tackles on board. One was a 4-star, one was a 3-star. I think it was Caleb Johnson and Jaden Roberts. Jaden Roberts went to Alabama. So those offensive tackles, and again, this is like one of those debate things. Are they really tackles or are they offensive guards or something like that? So we can debate that all you want. But yeah, I do think, I just think that you can be careful when you read too much into those things there. Let's see. What is going on here? Let's see. Okay, that's interesting here. Let's see. I'm trying to back up here on some comments. He's a huge prospect who wants out of Tennessee, and talking about who are we talking about? Dylan Brooks. And if he's released, he's already wearing AU gear on Snapchat. Yeah. So and always remember this, guys. These recruits will play games because they like the attention with fans. I mean, what's his name? Got the linebacker who was at Alabama, switched to Auburn, got the tattoo for Auburn, and then left and went to Alabama. Somebody help me out with that one. But yeah, I just be careful with that kind of stuff. Just because they're posting that stuff on there doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't. I put zero value in that whatsoever, except for that they like to tease fans just a little bit. Let's see. Colby Smith was a 4-star talent, and his frame makes him good project for friend. Yes, that's a good one. That's a good point there. Michael Floyd's on Facebook says, "Happy birthday, Auburn." Exactly. Happy birthday, Auburn. And I hope recruiting goes well for us this week, Cody. So yeah, Cody, I think that you always want to, we've been talking about some of these things. You want to be careful getting too invested in the hype of it, but I think it's going to go about as well as it can considering the situation that we're in right now. And then it looks like we've got a couple of rogue fans in the chat when it's just trying to be mean to Auburn University, which is fine because it's easy to hide behind a little avatar and say things when you don't have to say them to anybody's face. So anyway, we'll just ignore them. Reuben Foster, thank you. That was the one. Thomas, thank you so much. That was the wildest. I think that is my moment where I finally just said, okay, I am, I'm done with this recruiting shenanigan stuff. This is just too much at this point. It just really is too much at this point. Dylan's high school team, Hanley played 4-star Tanner Bailey in his 4A championship. If you look close enough, you could see Green Bay versus Alabama. So we can obviously talk a little bit about what's your expectations for National Signing Day. I'll just go ahead and give you a little preview about my schedule for the week. I will not be able to go live tomorrow, most likely unless something big happens, and I'm expecting we'll probably get some hints and rumors about some recruits that are probably very exciting, but Unless something just absolutely big happens, I won't be able to go tomorrow or tomorrow night because there's a basketball game and all that. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and say it now. I won't be able to. So this is like a good little preview. I hope to be able to go Wednesday night live so that we can talk about the signing class as it stands as of that moment, because that will be National Signing Day. But it'll be kind of, I don't know when that'll happen, all that kind of stuff. So yeah. Let's see. I think it'll be a bunch of surprises on Wednesday. So when you say a bunch of surprises, how many is that for you? Are you saying, because right now I think it's 13 commits that Auburn has, in a typical recruiting class. You'll see about 25, I think is what it is, somewhere, and then, mid 20s, something like that. It depends on what kind of space there is. Sometimes it'll be low 20s. Sometimes it'll be even high, above 20. It'll be like 26. I think that's what Alabama currently has. How they're doing that, I don't know. Cody says, I think it'll be awesome for us. We will rise in the rankings. Well, there's nowhere to go but up right here. I mean, we could go down like one or two more levels in the SEC rankings. But I think my hope is that Auburn can get into the top 25. And I'll say this. Let me backtrack myself a little bit here. I really, yesterday we were talking about on the stream, thought Auburn had a very strong chance to get into the top 15. Or not a strong chance, had an opportunity to get into the top 15. I'm not so certain about that anymore. I think, honestly, we need to be hoping and believing that top 25 is our ceiling. And I'm not saying that to just rain on people's parades, but I kind of operate off of the assumption you need to be prepared for the worst, excited for the best when it comes around, because it's much easier to come down from that high and stuff like that. So I'm hoping and believing we can get into the top 25 at this point. I'm moving away from my top 15 based off what I'm seeing out there. But yeah, we could have plenty of surprises, and I hope we do. Joko Willis and Caden Bridges just announced their intention to decommit from, I guess that's South Alabama and KU respectively. Both 3 stars plan to sign with us per sources. So yeah, I think when we see a lot of decommits and signing with Auburn, you're going to see a lot of that. What people would call 3 stars, which is not bad. I mean, we've turned 3 stars into 6 stars at some points. That I don't get so down on the 3-star thing, but in terms of the national perception, I think that's what you're going to see a lot of. 3 stars decommitting and switching the thing to Auburn, seeing a better opportunity there, which I love. I want them, if they want to be here, let's be here. Cody says, I think we will be top 15. I am faithful. I love the optimism, man. Now, I was there about last week, but leading up to today, I've kind of dropped that expectation, and I think it's possible still. It's a long stretch at this point for me, but top 25, I think, is what we need to aim for right now, and that's the great starting point. Here's the good thing. If Coach Harsin gets the top 25, with what, months of recruiting behind his belt, he's setting himself up for success next year, because he will surely do better even than that next year, and the optics of his situation will look good despite some struggles that may happen in his first year. May or may not. Let's see. Auburn should take a look at Dylan's running back teammate. He rushed for 264 yards and 4 touchdowns in that game. He has a class of 22. So they're looking at, and I think his name is Javaris or something, running back. Is potentially going to commit to Auburn. Somebody can correct me on that. I think that's one of the ones that are kind of expected to go to Auburn. I think he's from Mississippi. Ty Simpson of 22 class quarterback projected to Clemson has met on Zoom with Harsin, has developed a good relation. That could be interesting. It could be. Let's play that out, though. So you've got Bo Nix, who, despite what you may think about him, you need to go ahead and anticipate that he's going to be the starter next year. You've got Bo Nix, who will be the starter in all likelihood, and will probably be the starter for the next 2 years at minimum, which means Demetrius Davis comes in, probably red shirts, as long as we don't need him, which means that he's a sophomore when he starts. And we're not even factoring Khalil Garnett at this point. We're not even, factoring that in. So there's an opportunity, but he's basically got to come in and compete with Demetrius Davis. If Demetrius Davis is the guy. Now, I'm not opposed to them coming here and competing with each other, because I think competition makes each other better. I just don't see that happening. And I don't know what Clemson's quarterback depth looks like. But yes, it's a possibility. There we go. Thank you for clarifying, Jack. Jarquez. That's why I kept saying Marquez, I guess. 3-star from Philadelphia, Mississippi. What's up with these states having names of other cities? I know it's not like one state has exclusive rights to a city name, but it just messes me up. Like there's an Auburn, Georgia here on the way to Athens, Georgia. Like literally you drive through it to get to Athens, Georgia. And I've never been that way. I need to, but there's an Auburn, New York. I think there's tons of Auburns out there. So it's just weird. Sorry, that's a quick little aside there that just kind of bugs me. It grinds my gears. I'm very excited. Devin says I'm very excited for 2022 class. I know it will be great. Yeah, I do think that, and that's why I said what I said, is that this year is going to be let's see what we can do. Just shoot for everything at this point, and then let's start planning for the future of this thing and let's put some pieces into place here to set up for a better future. And that's why I've stressed I don't want to focus on the transfer portal. I want there to be some solutions coming out of there, but I view transfer portal as Band-Aids rather than solutions. And that doesn't mean that you don't need a Band-Aid from time to time, because just to use an analogy, you got to put a Band-Aid on a wound to help it heal, but sometimes you got to let it heal on its own, even without that, and let it air out, so to speak. So I do think that that's going to have to happen there. Class of 22, Antavius Woody went to the same school as Jatavius. Antavius and Jatavius. You talking about Jatavius Booby Whitlow? Wait a minute. I just put two and two. Darius, you're not related to Booby Whitlow, are you? Are you related to Booby Whitlow? I'm just putting all that together, if that's true right now. So we've had very like serendipitous things happen here on this show, whether it's like breaking news happen here while we're talking about things, and then we've had like former players pop in. Like we've had I think it was Junior Rosegreen come a couple times on Twitter. We're on Facebook today, so I don't know that we'll see him here, but we got some famous names that pop in here every once in a while. J-Boy Show, a guy on Twitter, said he might get a quarterback commit today. Yeah, I know who I don't know J-Boy, but we know of them, obviously, because they're one of the Auburn podcaster media persons out there. I think that's great. Let me pull back the curtain for everybody here, and this same's back for here, and I say this to a lot of people, us included. Our job is to get you to click, to get you to follow, to get you to listen. Things are posted a certain way sometimes to keep you interested, and I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but I think anybody can say that at this point, something like that. And that's not discrediting them in terms of their credibility. I wouldn't put a lot of stock at it. Oh, Darius. We now know the truth. Looks good to have you here. Tell Booby we miss him. I hope he's doing well. I hate that it didn't work out for Booby here, but I hope he's doing well. But it's great to have you here. It's still part of the Auburn family. Neil's here. He says 165 years young, war birthday to Auburn. Yes, 165 years of the greatest university on this planet. And I'll be honest with you, it snuck up on me. I completely forgot. I know this kind of stuff in the back of my head, but it just kind of flew past me at this point. And it's weird that I just wouldn't expect February 1st to be the day that Auburn started. It's just weird to me. I don't know why. It doesn't feel like Auburn's birthday. Auburn's birthday feels like a June or something like that. It's like it formed in the summer, getting ready for the fall semester. But no, it started in the middle. And I know this was back in the 80s when things were a lot different. But it just feels weird. We'll be at the point in a few years as a stereotypical Auburn fan when we get perennial top 10 classes in football and basketball. It does feel that way, and we've already been there. We've been there with the last couple of years. We've had a couple of times where it was football, basketball, and baseball having top 10 classes together. I think people forget how, and we were having this conversation on our podcast network about 2 years ago, Was this the greatest time in Auburn sports history in terms of across the board? And we're not talking about, championships, but there was, I think, 2 seasons ago where Auburn football was pretty good. Not great, but pretty good, and had been consistently winning. Basketball had gone to the Final Four. So, yeah, it was 2 seasons ago. Baseball had made their run to the College World Series. Softball made it to not the World Series, but the tournament. Gymnastics had made it to like the final 6 is what they do. Golf had won an SEC championship and had finished like in the finals or something. Like women's had finished in the finals too, I think is what it was. Equestrian won a national championship. Tennis from both sides was good. I think really the only things that were down were swimming and diving, mainly because they had just transitioned to a new coach, and then volleyball, which had been struggling for a while. And that's got a new coach now, and he's had a tough year in terms of his first year with this whole scheduling stuff. But yeah, 2 years ago, Auburn, we were asking the question, is this the greatest sports time in Auburn history across the board? And it may have been. 165 years of that, though. Let's see. I was a sports journalism major at Auburn at first, and I tried to reach out to people. I unfortunately didn't hear from any and changed majors. Ended up being in contact with them, and thus I have sources. Awesome. Yeah, and see, I think that's the great thing is we've all got our different sources and stuff like that. And that's why when I say here on this show that I have a source or something, I always try to put the caveat, you can believe me or not. And I think sources are great things to have, but again, I operate off of the spectrum of where there's smoke, there's fire, but to what degree. So that's why I kind of always play the devil's advocate portion of that. Darius says we really need to get down in state recruiting while also stealing recruits from Georgia. Alabama destroys us in this part of recruiting. So Darius, you bring up a great point, and let me take what you said and reposition it a little bit, in my opinion. So yes, the bread and butter of what you do needs to be your in-state recruiting. The problem is, especially with the way Auburn's program is right now, it's tough to do against Alabama. You acknowledge that already. What we have done in hiring Cornelius Williams sounds to be like a very smart relationship because he has relationships up and down the board in the state. It's been at basically every other smaller tier university from Huntsville all the way down to Mobile. He's going to know the coaches, all that kind of stuff. He's going to be the guy for Alabama. So right now, I would say it's not so much that we need to focus on in-state recruiting. We need to go see who we can get out of here and keep that as our bread and butter. But right now, foundation building again, re-establishing the foundation is what needs to happen with Cornelius Williams and the staff in the state of Alabama. I think obviously you need to do the same thing when you go to Georgia, go to Florida, go to Tennessee, Mississippi, the ones that surround us, mainly Georgia and a little bit of Florida as well, because Florida's a huge pipeline. I think you need to see who you can get out of there as well. And see, but then you're recruiting against a lot of the programs that are in a much better position right now than Auburn. I really, truly believe that Auburn needs to focus on maximizing the potential they have with this staff outside of the Southeast. I'm talking Southwest, Midwest, West Coast, Northwest. They need to go see who they can pull in from out there to not be a Band-Aid, but to be for lack of a better term, to inject something into this program that you might not be able to compete against currently against an Alabama compete. By the way, did y'all see the Nick Saban video that was posted of his recruiting pitch? I didn't watch all of it, but even I gotta admit, he doesn't even, it's not even that he makes a great case. His program just makes a great case. All he has to do is just repeat their accolades. And I'm just like, man, it's hard to argue with that at this point, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. Would you rather win 2 quick championships? Stereotypical Auburn fan asking this. And then be terrible, or have 10-plus years of 9-3 seasons but no championship appearances? Ooh, that's tough. So it's I'm a fan of stability and consistency, which is why I was a fan of Coach Malzahn. So 10-plus years of 9-3 seasons, to me, sounds where you're competitive every year. That's fine with me, because 2 quick championships, I don't like that. Just creates this. That's what happened with Auburn in this. This is not fun. That high is always taken down by that low, if that's not the case, we wouldn't be in the situation we are right now. So I would rather have continual success that is maintained, and when the opportune time comes where everybody else starts kind of suffering a little bit, you're there ready to pounce and seize your moment. That's what Clemson did. Clemson was always there, maybe a little bit lower. They kind of took a dip for a little while, but came back up, and they just did this and this and this and this, and finally seized their moment. That's the trajectory that I like. Winning cures everything, Clell says. By the way, Clell is one of our people that have been showcased on Auburn Roots, where we let you tell your Auburn story. Speaking of which, quick plug. If you want to do that, you can sign up for the Booster Club number 2 there. You can see on the little window I brought up on Patreon that gets you at any level. You get featured on Auburn Roots to tell your Auburn story for signing up as little as $1 a month. But Clell was one of the early ones that got in there and you got asked to do it by us. So go check his story out. It's pretty cool. So I would say winning doesn't cure everything. I will disagree with you a little bit on that. I understand what you're trying to say, and to some degree I agree, but winning does not cure everything. If that were the case, we wouldn't be where we are right now. And Gene Chizik would still be here. Let me back up here. I got really behind. We need to be stealing recruits from Tennessee area. Perfect time to do it. I think that's an area where you probably, or I think you're talking about the university. Yeah, I mean, obviously go poach who you can out of there. But I don't know that you want too much of that infecting. I mean that very loosely. I'm not trying to be rude to people, but infecting your thing, your thing there. So we're getting a lot of down votes now. I'm assuming that's a lot of people that came in here earlier hating on Auburn. Like we literally got a bunch of people all at once that just wanted to come in here and say negative things about Auburn. So that's fine. I think sometimes people forget that the down votes actually help the video. It's always hilarious. Every time I see one, I'm just laughing. We really need to expand to Texas, especially with 5 million 5 stars produced out there. I agree. I think that's an area where Auburn can really make some headway because there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot out there to work with. So that would be an area that I would go focus on a little bit more. And we had that here in, former offensive coordinator Chad Morris. But that didn't work out, did it? I think we're asking off that question earlier, did we win the New Year's Six? I guess that's a great question there. I'd take championships over 9-3 seasons any day of the week. So I don't think. Let me go back to his question here a little bit, Neil. And I think, and maybe I don't know if he's meant this or not. Where'd it go? His question was, would you rather win 2 quick championships and then be terrible, or have 10 plus years of 9-3 seasons with no championship? So in that scenario, are you saying there's never a championship? Like never? Because I don't think you can guarantee that that's not going to happen. 10 plus wins every year with a championship every 4 to 5 years is desirable. I can get on board with that. I don't know. Well, I think 10 plus every year is a little bit unattainable at this moment, considering the place that's Auburn in. I understand the desire to be there at that level. I want to be there at that level. I'm just looking at it from a realistic standpoint. UGA has 10 win seasons in 40 years and nothing to show for it. Exactly my point. So, I'm just saying, 10 win seasons that you can do all that you want there with that, but that's just not going to get it done. Consistent seasons of being good is greater than being bad. Being bad equals less recruits. Consistent winning seasons lets us recruit better. That equals songs. Interesting. So I would say, yeah. So from that perspective of the question of, let's see, if we could win a championship, but it would be highly unlikely in this scenario. So I don't understand how you think it would be unlikely in a 9-3 situation. I think it would be just as likely, because where does that 9-3 come into play? I mean, if you're losing to, Alabama and Georgia and either LSU or Texas A&M every year, that's the best teams in the land. And at some point, that's not going to happen. So I understand what your question is, but I think the the question of 9-3 kind of sets it up that nothing else is ever going to happen. But I would still take consistency every day of the week over this. There's no consistency there. Do we beat Bama? Let's get to the crux of the matter. Do we beat Bama? With the current playoff scenario, you won't make the playoffs with a 9-3 record. Understandable, but you can't expect to make the playoffs every single year. I get it. Alabama's doing it. I get it. They were set up in a scenario that is just they've just hit a home run where they were already set up to do that type of thing when the playoffs came around. So yeah. So I get it, folks, that my line of thinking is a lot differently than a lot of you out there, and I know that I want you to hear me when I say this, that I want championships. I expect championships, but I also I value things much greater than winning, and that's why that's more satisfying to me overall. And I promise you that is much more satisfying than a championship if you can get to that level. It took me a long time to get there, and I'm not trying to play the holier than thou card on this, just being honest. But I will never forget my dad and I watching the 2004 Sugar Bowl, or I guess 2005 technically, but it was for the 2004 season. And me being so mad after we beat Virginia Tech and knowing that we weren't going to get a chance to rightfully play for the national title. And my dad just looked at me as I was just sitting there throwing a fit. I was, a teenager, so I wasn't throwing a fit. I was just pissed off. And he's like, Kyle, you're acting real poor right now. Your team just won an SEC championship and won a Sugar Bowl championship and is probably going to be the number, right at the end of this, ranked number 2. And you're upset about that? Think about that. Change my perspective on things. We are the true 2004 championships. It does feel that way, right? It does feel that way. We are very much the champions, but we will never be named that, unfortunately, because it was taken from us in a very unfortunate sense. But yeah. I wish that we could have played for that thing anymore, and I think we would. I don't think we would have killed USC, but I think we would have definitely done a lot better. Reasoning: a championship every 4 to 5 years means every recruit has a chance to play for Tostitos for all the Tostitos during his time at Auburn. Great perspective there. So I think that it's reasonable. I think instead of winning a championship, you should, because what you said was a chance to play for a championship, not a championship. That's what you said in your explanation there. So I think personally the expectations to be is you should be in position to compete for the championship every 4 to 5 years. And Gus Malzahn had an opportunity to do that and make it into the playoff, and he didn't get it done. So I can, on that line of thinking, I can understand some of the frustration with him. But yeah, I think at this point, what that would mean is you would need to be in the playoff every 4 to 5 years, and I can get on board with that because the way I approach this when I talk about the Brian Harsin expectations and stuff is I look at it from a 4 to 5 year standpoint, really leaning more toward 5 because I think he needs a time to get a whole cycle of athletes through there, a whole recruiting class out of there. Plus 1 to prove that he can get it done or not. The 2014 was special, the best team I've ever seen. Let's ask this question for everybody. Who was better, the 2014, the 2010 team? And look, I know what you're all already typing in here. Was that Cam Newton? Was it just Cam Newton? Maybe. But everybody else had to do their job too. So let me just add that there. I don't know who would have won that matchup. I can probably lean towards 2004, but I don't know. We just got a QB commit. So look, whoever was saying that earlier was right. So tell us who that is. Would like to know. And the trend continues. You come on this show, news breaks. Tell us who that is. 2004, Holden Gernier. So give us some information about him. I think in my guess is that will be more for depth than it will be for a potential starter, which will be very much needed because right now I would expect that breakdown to be Bo, Khalil, probably this guy, and then maybe you redshirt Demetrius Davis is the way I see that breaking down. Holden Grenier. It won't take 5 years because the transfer portal changes everything. Yeah, Khalil, I can't get on board with the whole transfer portal thing. Like that to me, it's just a band-aid. And I get that kind of injects a little something into the team, but I just can't get on board with the utilizing the transfer portal more than absolutely necessarily. 04 was my favorite, 10 was the best, 13 was the most fun to watch. Oh, that's a great perspective, Thomas. I love that. 04 was my favorite, 10 was the best, 13 was the most fun to watch. That's a beautiful perspective on that right there. It's hard not to love the 04 team, especially from the bittersweet standpoint, but it's also hard to deny even just looking at Cam Newton. But there are other talent pieces outside of that. That 10 was the best. 13, gosh, those moments you'll just never. You know, it's one thing to celebrate a championship. It's another thing to celebrate taking down number ones the way that Auburn did, back-to-back weeks the way that they did, winning the SEC championship the way that they did, and coming within seconds of winning another national title. All right, we got some information here. Holden, I got to keep saying Holden is a 3-star. He'll be a 4-star in the future for the 2022 class. All right, so he's one of those guys that potentially can, raise his ranking up there. So let's even think about that a step back here and kind of walk this through here. So Bo Nix, even if you don't like it, let's just assume he's a starter for the next 2 years. Khalil Garnett is his backup. Probably find someone else to be in there for depth as well if he's not already there, because Cord is gone as much as everybody loved him. And then Demetrius Davis redshirts this year, hopefully gets ready to play on this level. So that means that at the end of this thing, Khalil Garnett and probably Demetrius Davis are playing for the starting job in 2 years. And I think Demetrius Davis, probably from what we know, would win that, which means this guy comes in at 2022 as a freshman and is either the direct backup or he redshirts. So that could set you up for some solid quarterback depth, and you'll never know who you'll bring in amongst all of that as well. Maybe you find a transfer quarterback out there. People love the transfer portal. I don't know. We'll see. So breaking news here on the E2C Network Live show, as it typically happens. I don't know what I do to make it happen. It's not me, but it does. It definitely does. He goes to a military school, so some discipline. Khalil, thank you so much for being here, my man. I appreciate you always popping in. You always bring a smile to my face. Good guy. Currently, Holden is a 22 prospect, 3-star, soon to be 4, could be a 5. He transferred schools from a lower class school to a higher class. Who else waiting to get booed when we head to Arkansas? That's going to be funny, Matt, meeting up there. Out of Georgia. Which is better, transfer portal or JUCO? Ooh, that's a tough question, Larry. The way I'm thinking about it, I don't know that I'm necessarily making a fair comparison, but there's been more proven out of taking a JUCO than a transfer. I think the only real success stories out of the transfer situations are quarterbacks. So if you were going to say what's better, taking a transfer portal quarterback or a JUCO quarterback, I might say transfer, but there's some pretty good JUCO quarterbacks, Cam Newton, Nick Marshall, that ended up doing well for Auburn as well. But I'd lean JUCO at this point. And I think people forget that basically JUCO was the transfer portal, just not coming from, Power 5. Beat out LSU for him. It's not hard to beat LSU, though, in recruiting this year, the way their season went. I think people forget that people had much worse season than Auburn did. 2013 was the craziest season. No one had AU playing in the title game that year, and that's what made it so beautiful. And that is why I love being an Auburn fan, because we do it when it's least expected. Nobody expected the 2004 team either, because everybody expected it the year before when we had Cadillac, Ronnie, Brandon Jacobs, Trey Smith, Brandon Jacobs. No, I just said Brandon Johnson, fullback, who could run it a little bit too. We were stacked at running back and fullback and just the backs. And we had a great defense, just didn't come together. Auburn does their best work when nobody's expecting, which is why it could be this year. I'm open to that. I am. Strong arm, pro style quarterback. So that means that we'll have, he'll probably, if he's a pro style, he'll kind of be like the yin to the yang of Demetrius versus, whereas kind of Bo's kind of a hybrid at this point. Here's people's problem with Bo. People need to change their thinking about what you perceive a quarterback should be. People cannot get out of their mind for whatever reason. I think I know the reason. I'm just not going to talk about it here. That Bo Nix should be a pro style quarterback. He's not. He is a mobile quarterback. And he is best when he's given that freedom to do so. So I think that personally, that's people's biggest problem with Bo Nix, is that they want him to fit in this little bubble, but that's not what he is. He's a hybrid more than anything, but I would say he's more of a mobile quarterback. Recruiting websites need to acknowledge smaller schools with talented players. So what if he plays for a 1A school in Wyoming? He still is decent. We've seen that happen a couple of times. I can think of an Alabama, unfortunately, example. So I grew up in Alabama, went to a school, not the private school system, called the AISA. You barely see anybody make it out of there into the big leagues or to the big schools. But the tight end, forget his name, a couple years ago, he's in the NFL now, played for Alabama, but he went to it's in Autauga, which is right above Montgomery, Alabama. But he was like the last big one that I can remember that made it to a school. Perfect example. Prince Tegawannego Jr. So yes, I don't know how you do that. I think it's just you kind of acknowledge when you come from the smaller schools that you're probably likely not as good unless you transfer out and compete against the better teams. So it's a tough thing. I hear what you're saying, Darius, but it's tough. Do you think we still have a shot at Gunner? I know it's a long shot now. No. I don't think we have a shot at Gunner. I never thought we had a shot at Gunner, personally. I'm not trying to say I told you so, but I said when that happened and we had our live stream right after, I said I wasn't not trying to say I told you so. But I was hoping people wouldn't get their hopes up about that because of what we were competing against for him. O.J. Howard, thank you, Whit. My cousin just popped into the stream. O.J. Howard, that's who it was. Yes. Neil says, JUCO seems to work better for Auburn. That is true by history. Doesn't mean the transfer portal can't work better in the future. But I prefer JUCO over transfer at this point because a transfer portal is literally a Band-Aid. A JUCO can literally, can be a healing thing for it. At least historically, it's proven that. I don't think that a transfer is more of a Band-Aid when it gets ripped off. Things change drastically for the situation. And I think you could make that case for Cam Newton, right? Because he came in and left in one season. So that almost is like the transfer situation. That Band-Aid got ripped off. We saw what happened. Fairleigh Newton, Marshall, that other guy. Can't remember his name. Yep. John, what's going on, my man? Hey, John, I've sent you a email. I hope that you've gotten it about stuff that you're due and stuff like that. So go check that out. I want you to make sure you get some stuff that you're due for, my man. Not to be a downer, but 2013 was pretty lucky. Trey Matthews dropping that pick only later to come to Auburn. So let me. I feel like I've come after a stereotypical Auburn fan a lot today, so I hope you don't take it personally. But I hate when people try to make the argument that was anything is lucky. And I understand if it's hard, if you don't think of it this way, but luck is truly where preparation meets opportunity. It can be lucky, but you don't make that happen if you're not ready for it. And the fact that clearly, what's his name? Carter Lewis
had been doing tip drills where he had to catch behind him or be ready to catch over his shoulder, but also be ready to catch a tip, have the dexterity to do that. Preparation meets opportunity. And that's all you can ask for. So we can sit here and say, oh, it was just lucky. So that's what, but that's not a discredit for it. It was lucky that Aaron Murray was given a touchdown the drive before to give them the lead to potentially win the game when he didn't even cross it, when Jake Howland made the tackle. As much as he frustrated us, he made the tackle at the offensive line. You could go back and look at it. I've shown it to Georgia fans, and they won't argue on it. He did not cross that line. So luck is where preparation meets opportunity, and you have to be willing to seize it. So not to get on you a little bit, but I hate that type of mentality. That's just me, though. So not trying to pick on you. Hard to imagine Brandon Jacobs sat behind Caddy and Brown. Jacobs ended up winning a Super Bowl with Eli. He's more set up to be a running back in the NFL. Think why Derrick Henry's so good at that level, that type of just this big guy, running back, can take the beating. So I'm not shocked that Brandon had a more decorated career than Cadillac or Ronnie. I'd hoped it'd be different, but not surprised. Bo Nix is extremely talented, and I'll stand behind that. I prefer mobile quarterbacks as they provide the ability to improvise. Fair, well said. Bo just needs to improvise less. Fair statement as well. Fair statement. And I think Bo's biggest problem goes back to, and again, I'm not taking responsibility away from Bo, but I'm also trying to look at all stuff in the equation. Bo was put in a situation where he felt, right or wrong, probably wrong, that he needed to do more with the talent that he has, and was trying to do that, and unfortunately made him look worse in the process. So I agree with you that he does need to improvise less, but we also need to provide him situations where he doesn't feel like he needs to do that. We stole a 3-star quarterback from UGA. If we're talking, well, I think you're talking about the one we just breaking news here on the live stream. every time. Just waiting for the day we see a 5-star commit. Nothing against 4 stars, but just waiting. Don't get so focused on the stars. They're exciting. I get it. I love seeing that kind of stuff. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway. No issues or rush. Just do you. I didn't get the full message there. Okay, got you, John. I think I understand what you're saying there, but just want to make sure you got it or anything like that. No JUCO linebacker commit. A new JUCO linebacker commit. Is that a new one right now? Another breaking news here. All kinds of good stuff happening here on this stream. Yeah, Casey, we've just been talking about the quarterback commit and where that might play out and stuff like that. So there you go. So like I said, over the next couple of days, we won't be able to do a live stream tomorrow, but plan is to do one Wednesday evening to break down the signing class and stuff like that. All right, we're going to say goodbye to the social media folks. Everybody virtually wave goodbye to them. Thanks for joining us. You can come over to YouTube. We stay just a little bit longer. You can hear the sounds going off there. All right, folks. Thank you all so much for being here today. Let's get in last-minute comments and questions about anything that you want. Obviously, we've celebrated 165 years of Auburn, talked about recruiting, talked about Bo Nix, we talked about JUCO versus transfer portal. We've talked about 2004 versus 2013 versus 2017 football team. We got a lot of stuff covered today, guys. This was a great stream. But let me give you a couple things that we always do here. If you haven't, please do consider subscribing to our podcast network. That's the easiest thing. If you want to help support the stuff that we do here, that you can do. It's just listening or downloading, subscribing to that. There's the Apple Podcast link in the chat window right now if you would like to go check that out. If you're an Apple Podcast subscriber, please do go give us a review if you can, a star review and a small, even if you just want to say War Eagle on it. Trust me, when I say that's the most important thing, that is the most important thing. That tells Apple other people need to see this, and they'll share it out to them. And it continues to grow our little family within the Auburn family. Also, amongst the other ways that you can financially help support the content we do here, I put in the chat window our Patreon link if you'd like to sign up for that. Today is a great day at the beginning of the month to do that. You can sign up for as little as $1 a month and get yourself some perks at different levels. At the second level, you get a free t-shirt from us. But all levels get like exclusive content that nobody else gets. Like we do blooper reel, the outtakes, special things, communications and stuff like that. So if you want to take part in that, it's $1 a month, really cheap is all it takes. Think of it as a going without. Well, it doesn't even buy you a coffee at this point. Go without the creamer for a month. And you can help support our content here. And we thank y'all so much for those of you that chose to do so. And there's some other ways that were listed in that cue card that you can do that. All right, let me see here. The way things are looking right now, do you think Auburn signs 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the 2022 class? Casey, I don't see why they would. That'd be too packed. The way I approach, I think every year you try to sign at least 1 quarterback. Depends on who you have there now, on what type of quarterback you're looking for and what level. Sometimes you're looking for someone just for depth purposes. So they could. I doubt it. I think with this new signee or new commit, eventual signee, hopefully, you can probably look at another one next year. Weren't Bo, Tank, and Papo 5 stars? Yes, they were. Bo is a 5-star. Well, did he get dropped? Tank got dropped too, I think. I think Papo was a consensus 5-star. I think Bo and Tank potentially got dropped, and depending on who you look for. And that's why I don't get on the stars, because one service will say they're a 5-star, the other will say they're a 3-star. Literally, I've seen that happen. It just makes no sense whatsoever. I would love to sign as many quarterbacks as we could, Casey. I just don't see it happening at all. They removed. There you go, Darius. Thank you for sharing that. They removed a star from Tank. Isn't that funny how it happens? You used to see that all the time. Auburn would sign a 5-star, and then suddenly the recruiting rankings would be like, oh, well, we actually reviewed him, and he's a 4-star. I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't care about your extra star. Just give me the guy who looks good on paper. All right, guys, I think that's it for today. I really appreciate everybody who was here. We had a great stream, a smaller group, but a great stream here. I always love seeing your smile. Well, virtually your smiling faces here. And like I said, we're kind of working towards doing some little improvements here in the stream, maybe a call-in option at some point. And we'll see what else happens. So thank you all for being here today. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.